Official history textbooks describe the Cuban Missile Crisis as a diplomatic duel between Kennedy and Khrushchev, but behind the scenes of that confrontation, in the darkness of the ocean depths, a different drama was playing out. The fate of the entire planet depended not on the presidents, but on one man. This story was hidden in the archives under the top-secret classification because the truth was too terrifying. The world was truly hanging by a thread, and a single officer saved it. October 27, 1962, the very height of the crisis, American destroyers were actively practicing depth charge attacks in international waters, trying to smoke out Soviet Foxtrot-class submarines. On board one of them, B-59, the situation was close to apocalyptic. Due to continuous pursuit, the submarine could not surface for a communication session and had been cut off from the world for more than a day. The temperature in the compartment soared above 45 degrees Celsius, 113.8 degrees F. Insulation on wires was melting, and the carbon dioxide level was off the charts. Sailors were fainting from the heat and lack of air. Captain Valentin Savitsky was on the edge. He didn't know if the war had already started on shore. And then there were those muffled blows of depth charges against the hull. Boom, boom. They were not live charges, but practice, signaling ones. But inside the steel coffin that the submarine had become, it was impossible to tell the difference. In the exhausted captain's mind, the only possible picture formed: the war had already begun. And then he uttered the words that were to become a death sentence for millions. We're going to blast them now. We will tear them a new one. Let everyone drown, but we will sink them. The order was terrifying in its simplicity. Prepare the nuclear torpedo for launch. Its yield was equal to the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The target of the USS Randolph aircraft carrier on the horizon. One showed up and the point of no return would be crossed. World War III would have begun not with the button in Washington or Moscow, but from the cramped compartment of a submarine. The launch required the consent of 3 officers. Captain Savitsky had given his order. The consent of the brigade chief of staff, Captain Second Rank Arkapi Shumkov, was a formality. He was on board as a passenger and supported Savitsky. There remained the third, the flotilla commander, Chief of Staff Vasily Arkhipov. He was on B-59 in transit, inspecting another boat. By a twist of fate, he turned out to be that third key. He faced a storm. Captain Savitsky, in a fury and despair, was shouting that they were already in a trap, that the war had begun, and it was their duty to strike a crushing blow. In the stuffy compartment, saturated with sweat and fear, accompanied by the muffled blows against the hull, Arkhipov maintained an icy calm. Valentin, stop. We haven't heard gunfire. This is a provocation. The depth charges are not an attack. They are pressure, he said, looking into the captain's burning eyes. His arguments were simple and brilliant. The submarine had a problem with reactor cooling. It couldn't achieve full speed. Why not try to contact Moscow? Why not surface, sending distress signals? If they don't open fire on us when we surface here, there is no war. It was a moment of purest global Russian roulette. Arkhipov was offering to put his own temple to the gun barrel, hoping it wasn't loaded. His authority as the senior officer and his personal courage changed the course of history. Captain Savitsky rescinded the order. The submarine, almost without power, exhausted, surfaced in broad daylight to the astonishment of the American ship's crews. What awaited them were not torpedoes, but a request for help and the chance to return home. Vasily Arkhipov, the man who said no at the most critical moment of the 20th century, never publicized his deed. He was simply doing his job, his duty, not to an order, but to humanity. And on that day, in the scorching hell of a steel hull, a single man, whose name is not in the textbooks, proved to be wiser, cooler, and more human than all of world politics put together. He did not press the button, and because of him, we are all alive today.